Hey guys, welcome to another week's vlog, and I'm here filming in my glorious garage. It's like I'm filming in a bunker. So what I want to talk about today is something called a scale. For those who don't know what a scale is, and this is a musical video by the way, and for those who don't know what scales are, they're literally a series of patterns on your fretboard that you can't see, but if you've memorized the position in relationship to the frets and the strings and the notes and so on, you can create a sound that makes it sound like what you've heard, say, from a song. Now, if you want something to sound exotic, maybe Eastern, you might want a Phrygian major. If you want something that sounds traditionally westernized music, like pop music, you might want to go for something like the major scale, which is also used in a lot of metal. And if you want something to do with jazz, you might want to use the blues, the bebop scales accordingly. If you want something that sounds more folk music, you might want to fiddle around with the pentatonic scales or any scale that has 5 notes. Now, for those who don't know, there's got to be over 1,000 scales out there, and for you to memorize them all would take a very long time. So to prioritize, I put up 9 scales in the next video, and it's very hard for me to explain scales, so unless I'm sitting down with you, I'm not going to be able to do that. There's just too much theory. I'm going to have to create video after video after video, but for now I'm going to keep it very simple, and if anything, I want this video to kind of motivate you a little bit more to go out there and start practicing these scales. Now again, if you don't know what a scale is, it's a pattern on your fretboard, and what I'm going to do is I've actually recorded some of my own music, and I'm going to put the music behind the scale you're about to see. I'm going to put on the screen, and you're going to hear what it sounds like to improvise in that scale. They're not out of any songs, they're literally just some improvisational pieces that I've made up on the spot. Hence, that's what an improvisational piece is. So I've made it up on the spot just to illustrate what exactly that scale sounds like. Now, you've probably heard bits and pieces from other songs or songs that you've listened to. You're going to hear that in my little pieces, and you're going to go, oh, that's the scale that they used to get that sound. And so that's what I want you guys to do. But in essence, what makes up a song is bridges, choruses, verses, and so on. What makes up them is scales. What makes up scales is what we call modes, and what makes up modes is intervals. It's sort of like going from the human being to the organ, to the cell, to the atom. It just breaks down even further and further. Now, for those who don't know what a mode is, just quickly, a mode is the relationship between a note and its octave, and the path it takes to get to that octave and back down. Improvising in those boundaries. For instance, just quickly, a mode in the major scale, these modes are so commonly used, they're given names. If you start on a C, for instance, I'm going to hold this up to the camera and we'll see if you guys can see that at home. If you go to the C, here we go, from here, if you go from that C to that D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and you improvise in these notes that I've highlighted in yellow, you'll get a particular sound. If you improvise in the blue notes here, this is called the Aeolian mode. This is more of a sad mode and it sounds medieval, but that's only if you start and end on that A. And here, if you start and end on that C, all the other modes in between, such as Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, etc., you have to start and finish on that note. If you don't get a particular sound, because you'll notice that this pattern basically repeats itself throughout the whole fretboard. And that's what a mode is. You have to start and finish on that particular note. You'll know how many modes a scale has by how many notes it has. So if a scale has 6 notes, in total it has 6 modes. Alright, so again, and for those who want to break that entire mode down, we have what I call interval. This is a little structure sheet I give to my students. I'm going to take this out of the plastic wrapper quickly. An interval is the relationship. It could be thought of as the simplest chord in the world. It only contains 2 notes. A chord that contains 2 notes is called an interval, and it's used for theory purposes to explain emotions. So you've got, say, from a C to a C is called an octave. If it's in the same frequency, it's called the unison. Now, if that confuses you, don't worry about that. If you go from a C to a C sharp, that's called a minor second. If you go from a C to a D, that should be a was a major second. So you got all these intervals until we get to back to the octave. So inside that is inside modes. Now, each of those intervals has different emotions, and modes have different sets of intervals. Some modes have intervals that sound happy, like the Ionian, and some modes have intervals that sound sad and medieval, like the Aeolian. Only you have to check. In fact, personally, one of my favorites is Dorian and Locrian. They're one of my favorite modes in the major scale. But again, guys, you have to experiment that with yourself. So go look up intervals, modes, and scales. But I'm going to stop talking now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of my examples up, and so you guys can copy these patterns down on a page at home, and you can take them into your class or into your garage or wherever you want to, and you can practice them in your own time. Other than that, guys, enjoy.